Hey, what is up, you guys? In today's video, we're going to be seeing which Hammond Collection figure is the best. The Hammond Collection Buck Tyrannosaurus Rex from the Lost World Jurassic Park. The Hammond Collection Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3. And the Hammond Collection Giganotosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Alright guys, so basically how this video is going to work is it is not going to be based on which one I personally like better, because you guys already know that, my favorite being the Spinosaurus, my second favorite being the T-Rex, and my least favorite, well, I still really like the figure, but my least favorite is the Giganotosaurus. But that is not how I'm going to do this video, because that would just be expected if you guys have already seen my other videos. How we're going to do this video is going to be based on how well Mattel actually did the figure to its movie counterparts. That'll be like the paint job, the sculpt, the articulation, the quality, and all that stuff. So first, let's go ahead and do the Hammond Collection Buck T-Rex. So I guess first, let's get started with the paintwork on this figure. I think it is pretty good. I do not think it is 100% screen accurate. I do think that the colors are maybe a little bit too bright, and I think it should have been a little bit darker. But the color scheme that I do like on this figure is actually how they did the mouth. You can see like little veins and stuff, so it gets a half a point. Next, let's jump into the sculpt work on this figure. I actually think it is pretty good. I think it does represent the Buck T-Rex pretty well, so I think it gets a point for that. This figure also has improved glass eyes from the first Hammond Collection T-Rex, so it gets another point. And this figure also has the best articulation out of these three figures, because it has two double joints in the leg and it has that waist joint, so it actually gets 2 points for this. But in terms of proportions, this figure isn't the greatest, because since it has the double jointed legs, it makes its legs way too long, so it gets no points for this. And some other things I don't like about the figure is it does have a rubber neck, which does limit the articulation on the neck, and I don't like that mid joint because it kind of splits up the body a little bit too much. And in terms of sizing, this figure gets a point because I think it does size really well with other Hammond Collection figures. It also gets a point because it has the smaller feet, and it also gets another point for having the sharp rubber teeth. And here is a cool shot of this Hammond Collection figure. So overall, I think Mattel actually did a pretty decent job with the Buck T-Rex, but after I've calculated all of the points from the Buck T-Rex, it has came in with 6.5 points. Next, let's go ahead and do the Hammond Collection Spinosaurus. So first, let's go ahead and get started with the paint job on this figure. I think its paint job is actually pretty decent. I do think it definitely is not 100% accurate because it should be gray instead of brown, but I do know that they were basing this off of like the Stan Winston model or something. And I think it could use a little bit more blue on the sail. But I still think it is still pretty good, so it gets a half a point. Now let's move into the sculpt. In terms of the sculpt, this figure does a very good job. I think it represents the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus very well, so therefore it gets a point. In terms of articulation, this figure has a good amount, 2 joints on the jaw, 2 joints on the neck, 3 joints on the arms, 4 joints on the legs, and a bendable rubber tail. In terms of proportions, this figure is basically perfect, so it gets a point. This figure also sizes really well with the other Hammond Collection figures, so it gets another point. It gets a point for the small feet, the sharp rubber teeth, a very good green glass eye. I think this is probably the best glass eye out of all of them. And with all that said and done, the Spinosaurus comes in with 7.5 points. And now finally, let's do the Giganotosaurus. So first, getting started with paint, this figure's paint job is absolutely incredible. I think it is almost 100% screen accurate, probably like 95%. So I think this gets 2 points because it is the best out of all three of these. And now moving into the sculpt for the Giganotosaurus, I think that this figure is very good with the sculpt. I think it looks like it was almost ripped right out of the screen. I think the only thing that is holding this figure back from not getting that 100% screen accurate is that the head is a little bit too stubby. This figure also has the same exact articulation as the Spinosaurus, 2 at the head, 2 at the neck, 3 at the arm, 4 at the legs. But this time it has 2 different joints in the tail, one that's bendy wire and one that's just regular. And in terms of sizing, it scales very well, so it gets another point. It also gets a point for having the smaller feet, and it also gets a point for having the sharp rubber teeth, And it also gets another point for having a pretty good glass eye. And it gets an extra point for actually having a painted dew claw, which none of the other figures have had. And also in terms of detailing, all of these figures get extra points added onto their score because they're Hammond Collection figures, so they have very good detailing. And so at the end of the day, what dinosaur did Mattel actually do best? Well, coming in third place with 7.5 points, we have the Buck Tyrannosaurus Rex. I think that this figure is definitely good. It definitely represents the Buck pretty well, but it's not that accurate compared to the other ones with having the weird proportions and too bright of a paint scheme and not having like paint right here. And at second with a score of 8.5, we have the Hammond Collection Spinosaurus. I think that this figure is really good. It is the Spinosaurus, but like in terms of the sculpt and the articulation and all that other stuff, but the only thing that holds it back is the paint job because it doesn't have that much blue on the sail and it's a little bit too brown. And in first place with a whopping 10 points, we have the Giganotosaurus, which I think is Mattel's best done out of these three because it has almost a 100% screen accurate sculpt and paint job, and it has a painted dew claw, so I mean you can't beat that. Well guys, and that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have not yet, make sure to please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell to turn on post notifications so you'll never miss another video. And if you'd like to support the channel a little bit more, consider purchasing a channel membership. Link in the description, and also you can press the join button next to my name. And let me know in the comments what figure you guys think Mattel did the best, the Giganotosaurus, the Spinosaurus, or the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Let me know down in the comments. And this has been Erwin Goji 14 signing out. Bye guys.